Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Some news here for the New Orleans Saints. This is from Field Yates here, who... maybe a little breaking news from Field Yates. The Saints, who continue to look for help at cornerback, are working out Desmond Trufant. This was just about 20 minutes ago that Field Yates tweeted on Twitter at Field Yates. So, veteran cornerback Desmond Trufant, more than 100 career games played to his tally, to his credit there, working out with the New Orleans Saints. More on him in just a quick moment. Also, this from our friend Mike Triplett from ESPN.com. He is reporting that the Saints have multiple transactions today. They have signed kicker Aldrick Rosas back to the practice squad. More on that in a second. They've placed Will Lutz, Nick Vannett, and Will Clapp on IR. Now, the important thing to remember about IR now is that you can come back after 3 weeks now on IR. It's basically the short-term IR. There is no limit any longer. You used to be able to designate one player to return from IR. Well, now there's no... That was put in place last year because of COVID. Now, it's unlimited. And obviously roster issues or, roster limits and numbers have become a problem, even more so are exacerbated by COVID. So the NFL carried that over, and I'm for it. I'm for roster expansion. I think it's something that needs to happen. The owners just don't want to do it because then you have to pay more players. So I don't know that they ever make that progress or when they might make that progress, but I do like this. So that on top of the news that we got that both Trevor Seimian, the quarterback, and Chris Hogan, the receiver, also have been re-signed by the New Orleans Saints. So that's sort of the roster movement. So Vannett, Clapp, Lutz, all to IR. Rosas, Seimian, Hogan, all re-signed by the Saints. So we knew, when the Saints released their initial 53 and they had cut Aldrick Rosas, we knew he was going to be back. We talked about this before the initial 53. Like some veterans they were going to cut, veterans that weren't going to be able to be added to practice squads by other teams, be signed to practice squads. Teams that were going to add them to a 53-man roster. So you knew you had protection there because nobody was going to sign Trevor Seimian, nobody was going to sign Chris Hogan, nobody was going to sign Aldrick Rosas. So because everyone was settled at those positions. So you could cut them to keep some of your rookies to then sign to your practice squad and then re-sign these players with however you needed to manipulate the roster. So that's what they did. So Lutz, Vannett, Clapp all go to IR, all are eligible to return after 3 weeks. So Rosas now is your kicker to start the season. When Lutz is available to return, you cut Rosas, and then Lutz becomes your kicker again. And then Desmond Trufant is the interesting one for me. Let me talk about Seimian and Hogan just quickly, and then I'll move on to Trufant because I do think he's interesting. With Seimian, I think the very obvious reaction here is this tells you what the plan is for Ian Book and also Taysom Hill. You weren't going to release Ian Book. I mean, you used a high draft pick on him, your 4th-round draft pick on him, and the plan is clearly going to be to sign him to your practice squad. So you have some protection there where you can stash him because if someone else wanted to sign Ian Book off of your practice squad, they would have to sign them to their active roster. And roster spots are so valuable, there's not another team likely that's going to sign into their active roster. The Saints did that once upon a time with Taysom Hill, but they had a bigger vision for Taysom Hill, after the Packers had cut him. So you bring back Trevor Seimian, that means Ian Book's going to go to the practice squad, and Seimian becomes your backup, a guy who started 24 games in his career when he was with the Broncos. He's got starting experience in the NFL. So if you get into an emergency quarterback situation, that's your guy. Not Taysom Hill. Think about the game last year when Drew Brees got injured. Who went in at quarterback? It was Jameis Winston. Why? Because you had spent the whole week game planning with Taysom Hill in his Taysom Hill role. So it's similar. If Jameis Winston is your starter and Taysom Hill reverts to his Taysom Hill role, if in a game Jameis goes down, Taysom doesn't go in at quarterback, likely. Trevor Seimian does, provided you have him on your active roster, what it seems like they will. That allows Taysom Hill to be the Taysom Hill role. Now, what we also saw last year was after that, when Brees was hurt, the next week, Taysom became the starter. So that would likely happen in this situation again, and Seimian would be Taysom Hill's backup. But in an emergency situation, that's likely what you use Seimian for. And then Chris Hogan does make sense for this team because his skill set is like Michael Thomas's. Now, let me be very clear. I want to punctuate this so everyone understands what I'm saying. I'm not saying Chris Hogan is Michael Thomas. I'm not saying that Chris Hogan is going to break the NFL record for receptions in a season. What I am saying is he's a receiver that doesn't necessarily have top-end speed, but he's a physical guy that'll go over the middle with strong hands, use his body to get separation, and be effective in the short intermediate passing game. That's what Michael Thomas does in this offense. Hogan is not Michael Thomas. He's not even a poor man's version of Michael Thomas. He's just a guy with that particular skill set. Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, those are going to be your blow the top off the defense, big play opportunity receivers. It's also worth mentioning we have all assumed that Deontay Harris was going to be suspended, and to this day, he still has not received that suspension from the NFL. Might it come at some point during the season? Sure. But it certainly seems like now you're going to start the season with Deontay Harris. So you'll have Marquez Callaway and Deontay Harris and Traquan Smith. And then also, as I've said so many times, other pass catchers. You've got Alvin Kamara, who's going to be a pass catcher. I would hope that we'll see about Adam Troutman's availability, but if not, certainly Juwan Johnson has proven to be at least a viable option as a pass-catching tight end. It's the thing that I repeat over and over and over about Sean Payton. It's not so much necessarily just about wide receivers. It's about pass catchers. Jimmy Graham was a tight end. We've seen Alvin Kamara have 80-plus reception seasons back-to-back-to-back years from the running back spot. Pierre Thomas was brilliant in that. Sean Payton will scheme guys open to be effective in the passing game, even if they're not listed as wide receivers. But for now, anyway, I like what they've done here at that spot to get them to, anyway, that open date when they should, I guess week 7, get Michael Thomas back after being on IR here to start the season. Now, with Desmond Trufant, they worked him out today. We'll see if ultimately they sign him. But this is another guy who's a veteran defensive back. By the way, what's the thing I always say about Sean Payton with free agency? Sean Payton loves him some NFC South, y'all. I mean, it feels like every time we talk about a free agent, I'm talking about someone who played in the South. We can talk about Jameis. We can talk about Curtis Lofton. We can talk about Kurt Coleman. Y'all know the drill. All right. Y'all, by now you get it. I underscore that enough that you understand Sean Payton loves bringing in guys who have experience in the NFC South. Desmond Trufant came into the league back in 2013 with the Atlanta Falcons, coming out of Washington, at where he was the 36th overall selection, and he has played in his career 103 games, starting all 103 games over the course of his 8-year NFL career, 7 in Atlanta, and then this last year in 2020 with Detroit. So he has started every game he has played in the NFL, a ton of experience. If you need someone opposite Marshawn Lattimore, this could be a good option. It is worth mentioning he is 30 years old, and his birthday is it's September the 10th, so it's in a few days. So he's about to turn 31 years old. So he is a veteran, maybe a little long in the tooth. We'll see if athletically he can still do it, but that's what this workout is for. But a guy that knows the NFC South, knows the division. Sean Payton is certainly familiar with him, having played against him in Atlanta for all those years, for 7 years in Atlanta, schemed against him, watched him on film, knows certainly what he's capable of. We'll see what the Saints end up doing if they end up signing Desmond Trufant, but I at least like the idea of bringing him in to see if that's someone that might actually be a fit. Earlier this offseason, before we went to IR, they signed Brian Poole, who had been with the Atlanta Falcons, and he was going to be that guy maybe to fill the P-Rob role in the nickel. But we'll see if the Saints offer Desmond Trufant a contract, but they're obviously still looking for options at cornerback opposite Marshawn Lattimore, who we still await word from the NFL on whether or not he might be suspended. You're less than a week away now you're 6 days away from the opener. Saints-Packers in Jacksonville, and the roster is constantly evolving and changing. And we're getting a clear picture of what it will look like when the Saints take on the Packers. Just one other quick reminder. Desmond Trufant spent last season in Detroit. And Detroit's in the same division as Green Bay. So theoretically, you put Desmond Trufant out on the field week 1 against Green Bay. It's someone who he knows and schemed against and was in meetings against last year, playing them a couple times. He knows the personnel, the scheme, all that stuff. It just shortens that learning curve a bit. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.